Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Hisenior T4. This is another one of the latest releases from Hisenior. This time around it's a 4BA, all BA earphone, which also kind of belongs to that same series of IEMs, which are somehow Earth inspired. This time around the inspiration has been the clear blue skies and the oceans, and as such then the sound reflect itself as being a clear, crystalline sound. That's the kind of the inspiration that they got from the sky and from the oceans. Anyway, this is the sleeve that brings the T4. In the back, the usual information with regards to the IEM, 19 ohms impedance, 115 dBs sensitivity, and one thing I can say straight away is that the T4 is pretty easy to drive and gets plenty loud. Anyway, as for the main box, very much the same as the OKAVANGO. You open it up, inside you have a nice selection of tips. I'm actually also using the stock tips. They work fine, no need to change them. A cleaning cloth, and then also the same cable that we found on the OKAVANGO. Okay, once again, this cable, in my opinion, holds back the T4, and I'm actually using the white whale cable. It's an upgraded, cost another $26 on top of the $199 that the T4 has as the selling price. So okay, you could say why not bring it all in one already? I guess they could do it, but anyway, it is what it is. It's $199 for the IEM, $26 for the cable, and this cable, in my opinion, is the one that extracts the best that the T4 has to offer. 2-pin connector. The IEM itself, again, very much like the OKAVANGO, very, very beautiful. The shell actually, and the color of the shell, the video and pictures don't do it justice. They really hit the nail on the head here when it comes to that, the design aspect of things. You can see that they took their time. Anyway, you can also notice that it's got switches, 2 switches. Depending on the positioning of those switches, you get a different sound signature. Let's put it that way. With both switches down, you get what they call a balanced. So no bass and no upper mids and treble are emphasized, so you get a balanced signature. If you then switch the switch 1 onto the on position and leave the second one on the off, you get what they call the bass signature. So you've just boosted the bass around 2 dBs and left the rest exactly the same. If you invert that, if you put switch number 1 in 0 and switch number 2 in 1, you get what they call the vocal signature. So you've improved upper mids and treble and left the bass as it is in the stock setting of 0-0. And then finally the setting of 1-1, which is the setting that I have it in and the setting that I personally like the most. You have the bass boost of the 2 dBs, and you have also that boost of the upper mids and treble. And that's the setting that I think makes the most sense, at least for me and for what I like listening to. That's the one I had it on all the time, basically. Okay, fit, flawless, nothing to say about the fit. It's a nicely designed shell. I will say one thing, the T4 benefits from really deep insertion, so make sure you are able to select tips that allow you to really put the T4 deep into your ear canals, because it is worth it, trust me. Very much like the Night Oblivion or Buta Star, which I recently reviewed as well, which benefits from a deep insertion, in my opinion. This also benefits from a deep insertion. The quality of the bass especially, and the texture that you have in the bass and mids, is greatly improved by that deeper insertion, greatly improved. Alright, so as I said, I've got it using the white whale cable. Okay, let me just wind this up nicely so I can explain exactly what we have here for you today. Excuse me. Oh, by the way, this is the case. I just didn't show it because I'm sure you guys are aware of it. Nice case. Okay, so putting all this stuff away, what do I have here? I did most of the listening with the Topping A50S and the M15, this combination. I liked this combination pretty much. It just worked very well with any one of these all BA sets, and that's that combination I ultimately ended up using the most. I tried the KEN as well, also worked very nicely, and also tried the Venture Electronics, but the reality is this is the one that I mainly worked with, and that's why it's here. What do I have here? I have here, well, the EPZ 520, 5BA, $199. I've got here the C Audio Bravery, 4BA as well, like the T4, anywhere between $249 and $299, depending if it's the anniversary edition. Basically, the difference between the stock one and the anniversary edition is the color and the finish. That's it. I will, however, say, okay, that I have a first series Bravery, okay, and that first series Bravery has got less upper mids and treble than the subsequent series of the Bravery, okay. And when I received the anniversary edition, which was before I got that second edition of the Bravery, which is this one here, that one they had more upper mids and treble. So the first edition of Braveries, at least I have one, and I know at least 2 other people that have Braveries which did have measured the same way. Those first edition of the C Audio Bravery, they had less upper mids and treble, okay. Subsequently, when the anniversary edition came out, that upper mids and treble were boosted, okay, and just a little bit, but enough to be noticeable, okay. And I then got a second edition, a second version, or a more recent version of the original Bravery, which is the one I have here, and this one also has the same signature. I also know of one person which has a more recent Bravery, let's put it that way, and he measured it in exactly the same situation. So there was perhaps a slight readjustment there somewhere along the line. So what I'm going to be talking about is the signature of the Bravery in the latest edition of the original, or if you have the anniversary, then it's basically the signature of the anniversary, okay. Then obviously I've got here the T4, and then I've got here 3 other IEMs, which I just brought out because I thought it would make sense for the following reasons. These 3, they cost, well, $199, $199. This is already a little bit more expensive. This can be up to $100 more expensive than the T4. These here is the Simgot EM6L, $109. 10 String Cara, $169. And the sorry, the QE Ears Quintet, $209. I brought them out to help also better position the T4 and to kind of give you options of where everything or all of these IEMs here stand. All right. Anyway, let's get into it straight away. In the settings of the T4, which were not the ones that I'm using, you know, you would feel the T4 be in either too bass lean, especially if you had it in the switch to off position and you boosted the upper mids and treble, which they call the vocal. I found that just potentiated the leanness of the bass, okay. Or then with the bass on, it was fine. It didn't make it sound lean or lose any detail or anything, but you know, there was still margin for an improvement. And the best, and that's the reason why I chose the 1-1 position, which they call the sound stage, exactly the sound stage signature. You have just the right amount of boost coupled with the right amount of energy in the upper mids and treble to make the T4 just sound very grand. And the T4 sounds very grand. The T4 is by no means a bass head IEM, no, but it has got more than enough deep bass, and it does actually show decent rumble if the music or if the song has it. Again, I repeat, it's not a bass head IEM, but it is very capable. I mean, things like, for example, Matt Lange Rimshot, or again Matt Lange Satellite Heart, which is electronic music. It was more than capable of doing it. On the other opposite end of the spectrum, if I was listening to, for example, Got It Until It's Gone from Janet Jackson, perfect. It was able to convey all the air and all the details and all the rhythm that song has. Things like the airs from George Michael, again the same situation. The T4 is more than capable of giving the necessary atmosphere to those songs. It is at home unquestionably with stuff which is more vocal centered. So everything that is more vocal, it will be fantastic. I didn't particularly find that it also was at ease with anything which was rock related, purely because it just lacked that little extra more bass impact in the mid bass slams. That's all. Not that it was not doing it well, but it's a genre that I first of all don't listen to much, and also didn't find that it was at its best there. Sunrise, the live version from Larry Carlton, for example, is a song that not only his guitar comes across beautiful, the sense of space from being a live presentation also comes across very nicely done. The bass when it comes on to that matches the guitar again very nicely. It has just the right energy and everything to make it sound really good, especially the guitar sounds phenomenal. Okay, In a Sentimental Mood by Cecile Norby, her voice is fantastic. Having said what I've just said about some of the songs that I mentioned, and there is, or I would have liked if that, let's say, bass switch would have given a more, I would say, a 4 dB boost as opposed to just a 2 dB boost. Why? Because I feel with that 4 dB boost, coupled with then the amount of mids and treble that you can have, it would have just made some of these genres come alive, just that little extra, all right? And why do I say this? Because, for example, compared to the Bravery, and they graph very, very similarly, by the way, the Bravery has just a smidge little more bass as compared to the T4 in its bass boosted setting, let's put it that way. And that little extra bit that it has there is enough to confirm what I'm saying, that it gives specific songs and specific genres, just that, like Hot Hands from Darius, it gives just that extra little bit of slam that's needed for that song to really be in its element. Okay, not that it doesn't play it well, it does play it well, but with that extra little bit more bass, that's the only real criticism that I have to give the T4. And it's not a criticism in a negative way, it's a positive criticism, and it's one based mainly on also my preferences. I'm sure there will be people that will not agree with me and will think that it has more than enough bass, especially because the premise wasn't it being designed to be a bass head IEM. Now, when it comes to aspects like BA timbre and so on, I actually think that they struck a good balance. Even when the treble is boosted, they struck a better balance on the Bravery, because the Bravery's got more energy in the upper mids and treble than in the T4. And in the Bravery, yes, you do notice that BA timbre at times. You do notice that it's not offensive or in any way, but you notice it. And they've actually been able to strike a nice balance between that BA timbre, that BA tonality, and the non-existence of that, okay? But without then still losing the resolution that a BA usually gives us, okay? So, all in all, the biggest difference that you can find between the T4 and the Bravery is the Bravery has just a little bit extra bass, which is, depending on what you're going to hear, you might not even notice it. And then on the upper mids and treble, you notice that is just a little bit more detailed. But again, just a little bit, at the cost of also you're noticing more that BA-ness of the sound, okay? Otherwise, they are very identical. In terms of which will be the most correct in terms of timbre and tonality, I'll give it to the T4. Timbre and tonality, I think the T4, because of that balance being struck more carefully, it will be the better one. And the only reason why I'm saying about this extra boost of the bass is this has no switches, so you're stuck with what you have. This has the switches, and if they've given the switches, a little bit extra would have been nice. That's all, a little bit extra. Compared to the EPZ, the 520. The 520, if you guys remember when I reviewed it now recently, it surprised me in a very positive manner. It is a darker sounding IEM than the T4. The EPZ sounds more like the T4 in the balanced position, okay? Or rather, in the bass position, okay? So it's got basically the upper mids and treble of the T4 when the upper mids and treble are not boosted, with the bass which is then apparently thicker or bigger sounding than the T4. Actually, the bass is more prominent. It's probably the one that has that comes across as having the most mid-bass slam, although the graph might not indicate that. But it's of the three, it's probably the one that has the most mid-bass slam. Mind you, I'm not talking monumental differences here, we're talking small things, but it is the one that comes across with the most. So of these three, the one that comes across maybe, or that will probably be the most versatile, is the T4, because the T4, because of the switches, can give you elements of the EPZ. So the EPZ has got the tendency of being a BA set which will sound a little bit more organic, a little bit more, let's say if I make you an analogy, it's a vinyl sound being played by BAs. Okay, if we can stick with me there, the Bravery is a digital sound being played by BAs. Okay, so you notice it's way cleaner than that. It's more detailed. It's more of it, more as well than here, slightly, but also that comes at a cost of it having that BA timbre, which ultimately can lead to some fatigue. Okay, coupled to the fact that we're talking roughly $50 difference here. Okay, this again is the one that makes the most sense. Minimum we have $50 of difference if we if we consider the basic one. This is unquestionably the better deal. The price of the EPZ is basically the same. So here it's what do you want? You want to have that versatility because one day you prefer to listen to a sound which is more organic, or the other day you want to listen to a sound which is more technical. This gives you both of it. This gives you just more that organic kind of presentation. Having said that, I like the EPZ 520 a lot. I liked it way more than its brother, the 620, way more, which is basically the same thing. It's just got one extra BA, and for some reason the 520 just comes across fantastic. Okay, I kind of almost even will go as far as saying that it's a mini version of its bigger brother, the 530, which is a 5 BA, the top of the line model that they have. Okay, so in terms of like a small comparison, I think I've kind of established the base here. The base in none of these is ever going to be massive quantities of bass. It's a clean, detailed BA bass with more or less rumble, more or less mid bass impact. This one is probably the one that overall has the most mid bass. In terms of sub bass rumble, they're basically very similar to each other. Okay, mids, they all have very nice mids. Probably the one that comes out as having the most detailed mids is the Bravery, but not by much. I mean, the difference between the Bravery and the T4 is minimal, but ultimately I will probably give the mids to the T4 simply because then the timbre and the tonality of the T4 is superior. The timbre and the tonality of the T4 is better than the Bravery, and I also find actually the timbre and the tonality of the 520 better than the Bravery. It's these two have better timbre and tonality than the Bravery. So, and highs, then it's you stuck with what you have in these two, and that one has the ability to kind of going and fetching that, and kind of going and fetching that in terms of upper mids and treble. So I have to give the upper mids and treble to the T4 based on that fact alone. In terms of overall technicality, soundstage, detail retrieval, imaging, and resolution. Soundstage, I will give the soundstage ex aequo to these two. Okay, it's bigger soundstage than there. Imaging, I will give the imaging to the T4. Detail retrieval, I will give it to the Bravery. And resolution, I will give it again ex aequo to these two. So overall, the T4 is actually doing pretty well. It's holding its own, it's holding its ground, and kind of trading some serious blows here with what was probably the better 4BA unit in the market up to now, at least in my opinion. Okay, the Bravery also has now not only got this competition, but the fact that the prices are changing so radically, it makes it even harder and harder to justify paying $250 or close to $300 for a Bravery, at least in today's current market. I was going to compare it to the AS24, but I just myself, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that simply because the AS24 has got 12 BAs. This has only got 4. I know I did that comparison with the EPZ, and ultimately I will do it as well if you guys want, but I just didn't do it because of that. Compare them to the 3 other IEMs that I have here on this side here, which are the Quintet, the Cara, and the let me just make this a little bit more visible this way. Okay, compare them to the EM6, the Quintet, and the Cara. The thing that straight away strikes you when you compare the 3 of them with this is, yes, they've got the DD bass. So by the DD bass, they've got that tonality. Okay. Now compared with the Cara, yes, I do like the bass of the Cara more, but we lose all that detail and all that clarity in the sound that the T4 has. Ultimately, which is the best? No, there's not a best. These are basically complements to each other. I would say the Cara is tuned way too differently for me to even make a fair comparison, but rather the Cara is a nice, really nice hybrid that would be complemented, if you have it, would be complemented by the clarity and the detail that the T4 has to offer. Okay, so that's the Cara simple comparison. Compared with the Quintet. The Quintet, well, it's got basically every driver known to man at the moment. Very nicely, the driver matching and coherence has been done flawlessly. The fact that they've got planars, they've got piezos, they've got BAs, they've got DDs, and they kind of were able to make them all sound decently together and come across the way they are. Fantastic. Again, bass immediately comes across as being more thick, more prominent, more. There's more of it there. However, I still prefer the cleanliness of the bass here. Okay, it's a fast bass. It's faster than the bass of the Cara, for example, mainly because you have all those other drivers then helping clean up the bass. Okay, because the way of the Cara has been tuned in the mids and treble, the bass always here sounds full, present. But it's not that it's not clean. It just sounds warm. There, the bass has got extra cleanliness, extra punch, and that's basically the way, also obviously the way it was tuned. But you have those drivers in the upper mids and treble, which have been tuned in a way which kind of push those harmonics of the bass so that it sounds snappier. However, I still like it more here. I like it, although I don't have the same impact, I like it here. I like the resolution of the bass here more. With regards to the mids, they trade blows. They really trade blows. But I'm going to give it to the T4 on one aspect. When you really crank it, that there can become fatiguing quite quickly. Not on every song, true, but it can become. It can reach points, especially if you're listening to. Like for example, it's not on Sunrise live version that you're going to notice that. But for example, La Belle Dame Sans Regrets from Chris Botti. There, that trumpet comes across like really. It really comes across. While here it comes across also with a lot of energy, but you handle it much better. It doesn't fatigue you as much. Up and Up from Jeff Ryan, the sax, the same situation. Okay, so I will give the mids to the T4. Ultimately, which is the choice here, or which is the one that I would end up choosing? Difficult one to say. I wasn't expecting, to be totally honest, I wasn't expecting the T4 to hold its own so well as it did. It held its ground better than what I was expecting, and so for me to say that the Quintet is an outright winner is not entirely fair. Okay, I would say that they kind of very much trade blows here. With regards to the EM6, well, the EM6 has got one thing going for it, which is its price. One thing. That's one main thing that it's got going for its price, and based on its price alone, EM6 is the choice. I know I might not be saying something that a lot of people will want to hear, but that's the reality. And why? Because it offers very much not the same level of mid-range and treble as the T4. No, it doesn't. It's more relaxed. It's also by being more relaxed, it will lead to less fatigue ultimately. It's more tolerable. Not that it gets fatiguing here, but you understand what I'm saying. But for longer listening sessions, you'll end up being with that in your ears way longer than this. Okay, it's got that extra bass that this needs, and that there really is what makes it kind of come out on top. Is the fact that it's got just that little extra bass energy that makes it then complement everything in a nicer manner. Okay, it's not a bloodbath. No, it's not. They like I said. You have much more clarity, much more detail, everything here than what you have there. You have more, period. It's easier to listen there. You have the warmth, you have that lushness of the bass here. So, but then you got one thing, which is this costs $109, and to offer this level of performance and costing that amount of money, it's a hard one to argue against. You know, there's really nothing that I can say, oh, but because this, there's nothing. So I have to say that the EM6 is the one that makes the most sense based on that. Okay. Now, were they would Hisenior, you know, just deal here with the bass and give it that little extra warmth that it's needed? Then I could argue that maybe it would be worthwhile spending twice the money and getting the Hisenior over the EM, simply because then the balance of everything will be better struck. And guys, basically that's it. I mean, you know, it's the T4 very much like the OKAVANGO, is a solidly tuned IEM. It's very solidly tuned. It's got great mids, which is the main thing. So clarity, the premise of the tune, which was to be a clear open sound, it's there. It can be a clear open sound and more relaxed, more soft if you wanted, or more detailed if you wanted as well, because of the versatility of the switches and what they offer. And as I said, the only real thing there that I would have liked a little bit more of is just a little bit more bass energy. That's all, not bass quality, because the quality is very good. You know, it will rumble if you have a song that has sub bass, it will go down there. A fractal beach from Textured Being, it goes down. It plays reggae fine, perfect. Would it have a little extra bass? Would it do better? Yes, it would. But the way that it is right now, it's fine. It's not offensive, and it's a good, solid sound. Ultimately, I will say what I always say. Look, try and listen to stuff. Don't just take my word for it and going out and buy it and no. Try and listen to stuff. It's always a hard one to try and say to people, oh, go and spend your money because what you have is not worth it, and now this one is the bomb. No, any one of these IEMs, is fantastic. So if you have any one of these IEMs, like I was saying, you have a 520. It doesn't have enough to say, no, I'm going to go spend another $200 because I'm going to get way more than what I have on the 520. No, you're going to get more detail, but not really. The Cara, yes, these are two nice complements to each other, I will say. The Bravery, the same thing. The Bravery, because it's just the simple fact that it's way more costly, for me straight away makes it a no choice, because this offers the same performance basically, right? The Quintet, again, it's very much like the Cara. It's got a great detail, a great amount of detail, less fatiguing than the Quintet. Is it worth it? Well, and the EM6, the biggest thing with the EM6, and that's it's a fact which cannot be overlooked, is its price. It is a very well tuned, very well built IEM, which has an unbelievably competitive price, and if your budget is just that, then period, definitely get it. All right, I'll show you the graphs now, guys, and we'll wrap it up. Take care. Hi guys, and welcome now to the T4's Hisenior T4 graph, and this is the standard graph with both switches off, which they call the balanced tuning, and everything, as you can see, is really very balanced. We're talking about everything staying within a window of 72 to 79, so everything stays within a 7 dB window, and it is very, very balanced. It definitely is. That's no question. The emphasis and the focus here is on the mids. The mids are really, really good on the T4. Loads of clarity, loads of detail. Really nothing that can be pointed as a negative aspect when it comes to that. With the setting where we boost, so what they call the vocal setting. Let me just change here the color to something that can be seen a little bit better. So with the vocal setting, basically the bass maintains itself up to about 7K. Everything stays the same. You then just get an extra boost here, and it's the boost after that gets more emphasized. So things like that 3D-ness gets improved, and so I guess, when they say vocal, yes, this whole area here is emphasized as compared to what you still have in energy on bass, sorry, and you have that atmosphere also being added. So yeah, it makes sense, the vocal. this one is the bass setting by contrast. So basically what we've done is we've gone back to the first setting where we maintain. Let me just change the color here as well to something that you can see better. I'm putting it in black. So we've basically maintained the mids basically the same, and the upper mids and the extension past 10. We've given it just like roughly a 2 dB increase here, and it's this 2 dB increase here that if it was a little bit better, it would have been nicer. So everything still stays very balanced. You just have that little extra warmth. Okay, and then finally the setting where everything is boosted, so you get that extra bass boost, all right, and you also get that boost on the top, which they call the soundstage setting. This is the setting that I used the most. It's the one that for me that makes the most sense. All right, so I'll just put all four quickly so you guys can see. All right, and that's it. So basically, if you actually pay attention, there's four settings, but ultimately the variations are you either have bass or you have less bass, you have a little bit more upper mids, or you have a little bit less upper mids. So you basically say you got two tunings on essence. Anyway, what is important is this. I used this setting, which is both switches on, bass is boosted, upper mids and treble are boosted, and especially that past 10K area is what is boosted the most. Okay, now first graph I'm going to show you is the EPZ 530. All right, there we go. And the EPZ 530, yes, as I mentioned, more bass, more mid bass impact. Actually, this is the bass that I would have liked the EPZ. The EPZ's bass is the bass that I would have liked to see on the T4 when it's boosted. Okay, and then you have what seems to be more mids and treble and everything, but in reality, because that bass there is boosted, that doesn't come across like that. It doesn't. It comes across as darker. So by saying that, okay, you can, the more savvy of you might say, oh, but if they did the same thing to the C audio, that would probably also happen, and you would lose. It is a possibility. It's not easy to tune. That's why only very few people know how to do it. But small special increments of the bass. And seeing if no detail is lost in the upper mids and treble and so on, you can do it. It is possible to do it. Fair enough, we've only got 4 BAs, that complicates things a little bit more, but it is possible to do. Anyway, compared to the EPZ sounds darker. The graph here says that it will be a brighter sounding IEM, and in reality, no, it sounds slightly darker. It actually sounds organic by comparison. Okay, so that's the EPZ. This one now is the Bravery, and as you can see, the Bravery looks very, very, very similar. I mean, I mentioned that the bass came across just slightly more full, and it does come across slightly more full, although it looks like it wouldn't. It does come across just a little extra full, and then where you also notice the difference that it has more detail, the treble and the past 10K you have more, but it comes at a cost, as I mentioned in the review, of it also being more. You notice more that BA tonality. So I think in the T4 they've actually struck a pretty good balance. So that's basically it. That's the Bravery, the EPZ, and the Hisenior T4 in its 1-1 setting altogether. All right. So not major, huge differences between the three of them. All right. Now compare them to the other sets which I had there, and I'll start straight away with the Tenstrom Kara 19. Okay, the Kara, you would think, oh, but it's got basically the same kind of detail and mids and upper mids, and no, it doesn't. It's less detailed. Why? Because you feel way more this bass being present than what the graph would somehow indicate, and also that this, the fact that this area between 150 and 800 hertz is more subdued, it kind of separates things more. You have bass and then you have the rest, and while the T4 sounds more uniform all across. That's why I said these two are probably very good complements to each other, not really one being not better than the other. You do notice that the bass is fuller on the Kara, obviously, but they are complements to each other. So that's the Kara. This now, excuse me, is the Quintet. The quintet also has that area subdued, between about 100 and 600 hertz, 500 hertz, 100 and 500, also a little bit subdued, but you don't notice it as much as you would think as well. You don't. The balance is very nicely struck, and it's DD bass, so it's going to sound fuller always. Where you do notice that then it's does become just a little bit too much is the fact that you still got this extra amount of energy here between 5 and 7k, 8k. It makes it become. Trust me, you will. You will after a while start getting a little bit tired of listening to it, or you will ultimately have to lower the volume. While on the T4, I saw myself keeping the volume up higher for longer periods of time. Okay, and then finally, compared to the EM6, the EM6 again. By looking at the graph, you would think, oh, okay, it's got about same amount of upper mids and treble as the. No, it doesn't. Okay, now why? Because you have monstrous amounts of bass by comparison. It's not as quick as the bass as on the T4. The SIM card bass is not as quick, but it's got more weight, especially down low, way more weight, and it just confers a very nice, very agreeable tonality with which matches pretty decently the mids, upper mids and treble that you have. And gives an overall very, very agreeable tonality, a very agreeable sound. It's got plenty detail, but not the detail is ultimately not on the same level as the detail of the T4. The T4 is more detailed. It's got more twinklies and more sparklies. All right. What the SIM card has then in its favor is, of course, the price, which is it's like unheard of. And that's it, guys. I hope I was able to kind of position everything nicely with regards to the T4 and help you make a more informed decision on what to buy or in your next purchase. All right. Anyway, you take care now. As always, like and subscribe, and any questions you might have, please feel free to ask me. Take care now. Bye bye.